This is the Decision Point with Anand and Nanduri. And Anand, it's time to talk AFC West. That's right, AFC West. We keep wanting to talk about the AFC North, but we've talked so much about the AFC North on all these other shows. We're putting off the AFC North as much as possible. It's so exciting. It's even more exciting than the AFC West.
Ooh.
But the AFC West, pretty damn exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's pretty cool. So the two teams that we believe that are going to be most improved are going to be Chargers and Broncos. So I think we start there. I think we start with the Broncos. How do you read this team and their potential heading into 2023?
I think it speaks volumes about the disaster that was Nathaniel Hackett, that they were willing to trade significant draft capital for a head coach. It doesn't happen often. We don't see it very often. Obviously, the Saints were thrilled that someone wanted to give them draft capital for a guy that was never going to coach for them again.
Well, no. More importantly, they got a first round pick. Okay, a first round pick. They got it was a first round pick. Again, first round pick. They got They got a first round pick for a guy that's going to play 0 snaps in the league, ever. He doesn't even have potential. It's like not like he might develop into something. No. This guy's never going to develop. Sean Payton, you could put him in the gym. You could pump him full of as many steroids as possible. You could give him bionic limbs. And he would never play a snap in the NFL. And you're giving up a first-round pick for that. The coach worshippers. They're undefeated, man. They'll never go away. They can never be vanquished from the league. They're always going to be around, lurking around corners, popping their heads up. Hey, guys, don't forget about the coach. He's the guy that deserves all the credit.
And I think Sean Payton's a fantastic coach. That's not what this is about. The funniest part of this is if you wanted a Super Bowl winning head coach that was an offensive mind, you could have hired Doug Peterson a year ago.
I mean,
the fuck were you doing?
Yeah, if that's the requirement, right? Yeah,
there's a lot of ways. That's what you wanted.
Yeah, there's a lot of these guys are out there, man. The ownership, the equity holders of these teams, they're so fickle. There's always a guy with Super Bowl credentials that's available.
And the funniest part about the Broncos in 2022 is DVOA will tell you basically this team was carried by its defense. What it won't tell you is had the Broncos scored 18 points in regulation in every single game they played, 18, we're not asking you to score 40, 18 points in every regular season game, and this team would have finished 12-5. That's all it was.
Oh, yeah? Well, we can't play that game necessarily because the amount of points that a team has at any given time in a game influences the play calling of the other team.
Of course. Right?
So there is a chaos theory impact here that you need to realize that it's not a one-for-one comparison. The butterfly flapping its wings over here has an impact over there. So for every interception that Russell Wilson throws, that's lowering the probability of a pass play being called on the other side, which increases the probability of that team scoring more points. So, I mean, what did you say the record would have been? It would have been 12-5.
12-5.
So we're talking they would have at least been 10-7.
Yeah. The part of this that's frustrating is you can't trade multiple firsts for a quarterback to come save your offense and then not score 20 points per game. It's not like we're asking you to be the 2013 Broncos again. The defense was good enough to carry you for a while last year. The problem is the offense was dead weight. That's never happened. We've never seen a Russell Wilson offense look that bad. And we understand there were injuries to Sutton and Judy and Hamler and Patrick all throughout the year. I'm not suggesting that there weren't things that are out of his control, but 5-12 for a team that on paper had what they had is inexcusable. That team should not have been as bad as they were. some of that is going to be attributed to luck. It's a weird game played with a leather ball that's egg-shaped and moves in certain ways, and you get certain bounces and you don't get others. Luck is going to be a factor. They are not going to get as unlucky as they did last year.
They were the least lucky team by many metrics last year.
And so 5-12, while an abject disaster for my college football fans, this is the equivalent of Texas A&M last year. It is, we're going into the season. There are a couple new pieces. We're very excited. No matter what, this team is going to be competent. And then somehow they became incompetent. And you sit there and look at it as, okay, well, what do we do here? It has to be better. But the question that we're trying to answer here is how much better? And I think it's going to be significantly better. I think Payton replacing Hackett is not as much about offensive play calling as it is about building some kind of culture and some kind of identity. Because last year, this team lacked any kind of identity whatsoever. It was Russell Wilson allegedly having his own office. Like, there's all kinds of really weird shit that came out of Denver last year that, first of all, if it was true, we should never hear about it. We should never hear that Russell Wilson has his own office. Even if he does. Even if he does, we should never hear about it. Right? The fact that that's getting out is really fucking concerning. It's not about the fact that he has an office. It's about the fact that someone in that organization cared enough to tell us about it. That got out is a big fucking deal. So everything in that team this year is going to run through, I think, what Sean wants to do. And he has the caliber of coaching pedigree that we know is going to lead to offensive success. Is the defense going to be as good as it was last year? We know that's not a really sticky year-to-year stat. Defense changes much more year-to-year than offense does in terms of stickiness. In terms of, you were a really great defense last year, are you going to be a really great defense again? Maybe. That's not the part of this that we need to worry about. The defense will at least be good, we think.
Okay, here's the problem, all right? It's tricky when you take an edge rusher who is top 20 in QB pressures in Bradley Chubb, and he's about to turn 27. He's still in his prime. That guy goes to the Dolphins and improves their defense. It's one of the reasons why the Dolphins will exceed expectations this year. And you try to replace him with a 30-year-old edge rusher in Frank Clark. Right, so that's 3 years you're losing off your edge rushers. Like, the odometer has ticked forward 3 extra years on Frank Clark. So he could be an overcooked turkey at
and they
edge rusher.
Took Zach Allen, too. I think he was in Arizona. Productive player.
But they got Zach Allen. That's right. But, I mean, Patrick Surtain is the key. And whenever you get a young corner who can wall off one side of the secondary, and you can put him out there on an island, and he can blot out and absorb and completely shut down opposing alpha wide receivers. I mean, not the best in the league. He's not going to shut down Jamar Chase. He's not going to shut down Justin Jefferson, but the guy has defense-changing ability. There's a handful of these cornerbacks out there that have defense-changing ability. I think that he has that. But beyond that, when I look at this defense, it's clearly not like super athletic playmakers up and down the roster. And when you see some of these duct tape moves they're trying to make, bringing in Frank Clark, I don't love it. I don't love it. Their second corner is what, Damari Mathis. I mean, I'm skeptical of whether this defense can be top 10 in DVOA last year. I thought they were better. Given how much the offense struggled and that they were in so many games, I thought the defense was actually better than they were. It was only like number 10 in defense DVOA. Like, so they were tied with Washington and then a little bit ahead of Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Tampa. It wasn't like one of the elite defenses, San Francisco, Dallas, Buffalo, New England. the Jets last year. They weren't in that. Like, if you'd ask me who had a better defense last year, the Jets or the Broncos, I'd have been like, oh, it was close. I don't know. I'd have to look deeper. No, it was actually clearly the Jets. This is a team that has explosive playmakers on defense up and down the roster. Denver's defense is more fragile, and I think that as unlucky as the offense was, the defense was lucky. Right? So I think that their record last year of 5-12 may be a closer representation of what they actually are as a team. And even though I expect with Payton and with Russell Wilson having a full off season, with Sutton, Judy, Patrick, and now Mims, I think that he'll be better. The whole offense will take this huge step forward, but it could be offset by the defense taking a step backward. So this is the classic stay away team for me, where on the surface you're like, they were really unlucky. You should be in on this team. When you dig deeper, I have to admit, my feelings are also influenced by how weird Russell Wilson is becoming. Why is anyone telling the media that he's doing push-ups in the aisle of the team plane, right? Tom Brady does a lot of weird stuff. You know that, right? You know Tom Brady's a big weirdo. Big weirdo. Yeah. Big weirdo, right? And no one says shit about it, right? No one says a word.
You have like, to be an
Tom
has and a psychopath.
Tom is like tapping into psychic crystals or whatever. No, right? Tom Brady has his own physical therapist that follows him everywhere, and he's stretching during meetings, and he's stretching on the plane in the middle of the aisle or whatever. No one's saying any but weird stuff that Tom Brady's doing because he has that team on lock. Because everyone believes in him, they're all rowing together. There's something about Russell Wilson that is alienating and is driving a wedge between him and his teammates. And that's the only way this news leaks. And now we have this dictator coach coming in, and I have no idea how dictator coach with this newfound diva mentality that Russell Wilson has are going to coexist. I'm worried. So I'm just worried about the team dynamics. I'm worried about the talent on defense. And Russell Wilson could just simply be past his prime, that he's a rushing quarterback and that dual threat was what gave him the edge and allowed him to be a top 3 fantasy quarterback 3 times in his 20s, that now he's just not the same guy and he has to adjust to being in his mid-30s, and he's not necessarily aging well. These are things that are the simple explanations, and the simple explanations would tell you this team's not that good.
The biggest concern that you have for Russell Wilson is the scenery change obviously had something to do with it. He clearly was not the same quarterback he was in Seattle. Despite having a defense that saved him several times, much like his defenses in Seattle did, despite, in theory, having receiving weapons that were as good, if not better, than the ones that he had for most of his career in Seattle. Obviously, DK and Lockett are very, very good. I think the concern that you have,
you would like to have Jackson Smith and Jigba. That'd be nice.
Yeah, that'd be nice, right? There's a certain way that quarterbacks that have taken the amount of hits that Russell took, especially running the way that he did, age. Cam is basically out of the league. 3 or 4 years ago, Cam Newton was one of the best players, period, in the league. That's how quickly these things happen if you don't take care of your body the way that Brady took care of his body. Not everybody's like that. Brady and Breeze got hit, but they didn't voluntarily take those hits. Those were guys hitting them. They didn't go seek out contact the way that Russ did when he was younger. He's a really smart football player. I think it can work. The question is, do they have the time to make it work? Do these timelines ever align where the defense is good enough, the offense figures it out, Russell still has enough juice. I don't think that's this year. Like, I don't think that this team is gonna figure it all out and make that run this year. If anything, you hope to see enough improvement that in 24 and beyond, you can see, oh, this team has a vision. We know what they are. Right now, we have no idea what this team is.
They're doomed. This team is in the Patrick Mahomes division and the Justin Herbert division, and they're just never going to be good enough. This team is doomed to mediocrity, and they could easily be 5-12 again, but like I said, with the script flips, where the offense is actually carrying them. The offense carries the defense. I could very much see this. Like I said, I mean, they're one injury away on defense. Surtain goes down.
Oh, my God. That's nightmare.
Right? Nightmare. Surtain has an Achilles. Surtain has an ACL. It's devastating.
Oh, yeah.
Devastating. That's the hinge of the defense right there. So I don't like the dynamic. What I do believe is going to happen is that this team is going to be down. They're going to be losing a bunch of games. And that's part of why I like Russell Wilson this year. Yes, it's true. Russell Wilson will likely never be a top 3 quarterback in the league again. But he could easily be a QB1 in fantasy this year. He has the weapons, and I think he's going to have the negative game scripts with 2 games against the Chiefs, 2 games against the Chargers this year, that he could put up big fantasy numbers as he did at the end of the last year, as he did in December. I could easily see it, which is why I like drafting him in fantasy. So it's okay, like on the Decision Point show, when you guys are talking about, hey, do we want to bet on this team in Vegas? And we're like, absolutely not. No. But I want the quarterback in fantasy.
I want Marvin Mims.
Right? I want Jerry Jeudy, and I want Marvin Mims. I can tell you that. And I want Marvin Mims in particular because we're talking about rookie receivers. A lot of these rookie receivers get pushed down because the opportunity is not clear. Really, only Jordan Addison and Quentin Johnston have clear opportunity in year one among the rookie wide receivers that are out there. And so the rest of these guys are speculative, like, okay, Jaden Reed, he's got to overcome Romeo Doubs, which I think he will, right? And then any of these second-round picks, you think, oh, smooth sailing, right, into the starting lineup for pick a second round wide receiver, and then whoops, doesn't happen, and you're like, what? Wait a second, but I thought it was smooth sailing, and you're like, no. Rashee Rice, right? You think, oh, easy. The next thing you know, it's Kadarius Toney, and you're like, damn it.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, oh, Jonathan Mingo. And you look up, and it's Terrace Marshall. And you're like, oh, damn it. Right? It's not that smooth for a lot of these guys. And the situations, except for Rashee Rice, aren't that great. For Jonathan Mingo, having a rookie quarterback, that's not great. Marvin Mims, if he can flash in preseason, I mean, Tim Patrick is a journeyman wide receiver coming off an ACL tear. What are we talking about? If we actually take a step back, what is stopping Marvin Mims from cracking the 3 receiver sets? And when they are in a lot of garbage time and they're playing from behind, there's going to be a lot of 3 receiver sets. And I think the answer to try to unlock Courtland Sutton is to stop asking him to go deep. Courtland Sutton is best in those drag routes and keeping him in the shorter and intermediate areas of the field, similar to Mike Williams, we'll talk about in a minute, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the answer to help Courtland Sutton be productive this year and have a higher target share and target rate. I think Jerry Jeudy's going to do what Jerry Jeudy does. I think he excels in the intermediate to deep quadrants, and I think if you can bring Sutton in, maybe play him more in the slot, it's like, hey, Tim Patrick's coming back. Okay, since when does Tim Patrick help you win games? He does not. The best configuration for that 3 receiver set would be to actually play Jeudy at X. He's an undersized X, but this is the current NFL we live in, right? We don't necessarily have 2 210-pound wide receivers that you can flip and flop across the formation, right? And if you played Sutton at X last year and he struggled, well, the answer is to put Jeudy out there against alpha corners, because with his route running, he can get separation against anybody. Doesn't matter, even Patrick Surtain in practice. So I would put Jeudy at X and have him running all those medium to deep routes and winning one-on-one. And then I would put Mims at Z and have him run double moves and get involved in the bubble screen game and all that. And then you push Sutton inside. And you have Sutton as a pumped-up slot receiver on the one side, and you have Dulcich on the other. Right? So you have Dulcich and Sutton working off each other in the middle of the field. You have Mims going deep. That, to me, is a much better wide receiver configuration than Patrick out there just running routes at a baseline level.
The funny part, so obviously we consume a lot of content here from other creators, from whoever, and I can't remember where I saw this, but I saw someone kind of doing a breakdown of Payton and the Saints offense, and the guy that Mims, whoever it was.
Kenny Stills?
Kenny Stills.
I knew it! I knew it!
Kenny Stills.
I knew it! I didn't see it. I didn't see what you're talking about, but that's what I think. So I think we've had Robert Meacham has been fantasy relevant at times. Kenny Stills had a flash for at least a few months where he was very usable in fantasy, and that's Marvin Mims, man. Marvin Mims can blaze. Marvin Mims was super productive. He came out early. He is my favorite rookie wide receiver. I can't believe they got him at the end of the second round. What a gift. What a gift. When you had all these seniors like Rashee Rice and Jonathan Mingo going in the early second round, where there was a guy that an early declare with speed who was really productive at Oklahoma. That guy rarely falls to the end of the second round. What a gift.
I think the last second round receiver that Sean Payton took was one Michael Thomas. Fun fact for you. So clearly he has a vision.
The thing with Mims is, yes, he was productive but not dominant in his final year. 1,000 yards, but the dominator rating was around 50th percentile. But he's active on special teams, which is another predictive quality that these wide receivers have, as well as coming out early, as well as being productive as a true freshman, where he had 610 yards. He had 50 targets in 11 games.
Oh, my God.
So he was getting 5 targets a game as a true freshman at Oklahoma.
That matters.
Tell me that's easy to do. Sterling Shepard didn't do that.
I don't even think Hollywood Brown did that.
I don't think Hollywood Brown did either.
That's I mean, of all
and
the
2
Oklahoma
consecutive seasons of 20-plus yards per reception.
He's explosive. In a way that Jeudy is a route running specialist. He's a separation artist. He's very, very good at it. Courtland Sutton is a big-bodied wide receiver that for some reason doesn't want to play like he has a big body. I don't understand it. I'll never understand it.
Got to play him in the slot.
And then you have Mims, who fills a role that they desperately need. The Chargers were looking for the same thing. Right, they had their separation specialist in Keenan Allen. They had their big body receiver in Mike Williams. But you want someone that can go get you 80-yard house calls, not on command, because there are very few guys that can do that. Miami happens to have 2 of them. God bless them. Good luck with defensive coordinators facing Miami this year. God bless. But they found their guy. I think it makes perfect sense. A lot of draft picks, sometimes you sit there, wide receivers especially, and you're like, what did they see in this guy? What are they? What is the Kansas City Chiefs plan for Rashee Rice? We have no idea. We know what Marvin Mims was drafted to Denver to do, and it's basically to be Kenny Stills. So we have a clear path to a defined role. We have an offense that hopefully can't get any worse. Offensive-minded head coach. The system is good. The quarterback has been good. You're going to be potentially the third option on a team that's 1 and 2 have been historically injured. If at some point he gets the opportunity to be, like God forbid Sutton or Jeudy goes down, you're talking about a big target share for a guy that no one is talking about as that right now.
in these best ball leagues or these deep seasonal leagues like the Scott Fish Bowl, which is happening right now, there's all these special, scoring format leagues like the Scott Fish Bowl, which get a lot of attention. But the bottom line in the Scott Fish Bowl is it's 22 rounds, right? It's 22 rounds. So when you have super deep leagues where you're going to have a deep bench and a deep starting lineup, those leagues are better equipped, better set up to take shots on these rookie receivers. Take shots on rookie receivers that may not get the opportunity that they deserve in week one. Jackson Smith-Njigba is not going to get all the opportunity he deserves in week one because Tyler Lockett's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Marvin Mims is not going to get all the opportunity that he wants and deserves in week one because I could tell you right now, especially when you have a veteran receiver who came back from an ACL tear and rehabbed all last year and everyone respects him and he's in the weight room with everybody all the time, he's going to be the one. The veteran deference, the locker room will demand that Patrick's out there.
Yeah.
Right? But then once we get into October, right, and as long as you're seeing some signs of life from Mims, you want to make sure you keep him rostered in fantasy because he could be a second-half breakout star at wide receiver. He could be the best rookie wide receiver in this class this year.
I don't think that's crazy.
Yeah,
I don't think that's
behind Judy, it's not impressive. Cortland Sutton stunk last year. He was not good, right? All the advanced metrics, the efficiency metrics in particular, were damning for Cortland Sutton. I can't explain it. I liked Cortland Sutton going into last year. I thought, hey, this is the best quarterback he's ever had. He put up 1,100 yards with Drew Lock. There's no way he doesn't hit. He's DK Metcalf or a lesser DK Metcalf for Russell Wilson, and then no. So I think the bottom line is how we're going to be betting the Broncos is mostly stay away. Mostly stay away. And then if you're looking at like their over-under odds, if you're looking at the win total, 8.5.
Stay away number.
It's a stay away, but Vegas knows to go over 8.5. It's plus odds. So it's heavily skewed negative. If you want to go, well, it's interesting. Not on Caesars. So there's a pretty big disparity actually in the Broncos betting market, where on FanDuel it's plus 106 to go over 8.5.
Okay.
On Caesars it's minus 115. So Caesars has no juice on either side of the 8.5. So what I would do is go under on the Broncos win total because I don't think they'll get to 9 wins. It's hard to imagine them getting to 9 wins. They're the third best team in this division easily. So getting to 9 wins just on that alone is difficult. The AFC is a murderous conference, and this defense will likely take a step back. So I think Broncos under on Caesars is the move.
This is this stay away team because I think they're gonna claw their way to 7, 8, 9 wins. They're gonna be right in that range somewhere.
Yeah, it's gonna be it's a stay away in general. Yeah. I'm not saying if you wanted to dabble a little bit somewhere, something like there is an arbitrage opportunity between FanDuel and Caesars.
There is, and the way that I usually handle stuff like that, in a sense, is if you feel like the number is right, just stay away from it. And 8.5 is the right number.
Yeah, everything is right with this team. I want to talk about the Chargers because the Chargers are not right. The Chargers are misaligned because we talk about looking at the MVP odds versus the Super Bowl odds, and this is the team, right? Where Herbert, on some books, he's 9-1 for MVP. Yeah. And then for the Super Bowl odds or the AFC Championship odds, so for the championship, the AFC, 13-1, Super Bowl, 25-1.
The Chargers are the team. Every year we say this about them, but this is a different case.
No, this is it.
This is a different case than your most years of Chargers hype. Here's why. Joe Lombardi last year as the offensive coordinator of the Chargers put Justin Herbert in park. He had them throwing hitch routes. They're throwing drags. It was just sad to watch. What we want to see is Justin Herbert throwing deep posts, throwing nines, vertically pressing defenses because he can. It's one thing to have a really strong arm. It's entirely another to be accurate deep down the field with said arm. And he's both. And instead, because they didn't think they had a receiver that could separate vertically, they stuck in an 8-yard box. And I'll never understand it. We all hated watching it. It was ugly. They made the playoffs anyway. They had a 27-0 lead in Jacksonville. It's easy to forget about that. This team is good. They're really good. And they have the ability to win the Super Bowl with the roster that they have. The biggest handicap was one, health, as it always is with the Chargers. The AFC's Vikings. God bless them both. Neither team can ever stay healthy. I feel so bad for them.
Bad luck.
But also, the bad man Joe Lombardi is gone and replaced by Kellen Moore. Like, I can't. There are no words that I can use to describe how much of an upgrade Kellen Moore is over Joe Lombardi. It's going to be awesome to watch, not just in the pass game, but in the run game too. Eckler, again, super value always because he's really, really good. And for some reason, never gets drafted in the top 3 running backs. I'll never understand it. I don't get it. All he does is produce every single year, and people get upset. Oh, well, we can't draft him over this guy, or we can't draft him over that guy. All Austin Eckler has ever done is provide you RB1 seasons at non-high-end RB1 costs. He's going to be better. They added Quentin Johnston, who, to me, is not the bulletproof prospect that a lot of people wanted him to be. He's a really good football player. At TCU, he was used in a very specific role. And I think the Chargers so desperately wanted outside speed that
so they drafted a guy that runs a 4.5,
right? And they wanted
They would have been better off drafting Marvin Mims at that spot.
I agree.
If they wanted that, that's what they should have done. What they actually should have done is just not overthink it. Know that Keenan Allen's 31, and say, hey, we're gonna plan ahead and make sure we have Keenan Allen's eventual replacement, the heir to that position. We're going to go ahead and draft Jordan Addison. It was the chalk pick. It was right there. He's a local kid. He's playing at USC. He was mocked there. Everyone thought this is the move. Like, so many mocks had Jordan Addison to you because it just made too much sense. It's like,
it made all the sense.
It made so much sense. It would have been great. For them to not do it, it ripped my heart out when I saw that come in because I love the Chargers. I do too. Because I love how they've built this team. And then for them to make this, and they make so many great draft picks, and they make great moves in free agency. And if you follow the right process for team building, you hit on your quarterback, then you deserve to be set up to win a championship. And this Quentin Johnston misstep over Jordan Addison could come back and really haunt them if there are injuries, especially to Keenan Allen. If Keenan Allen stays healthy, need Keenan Allen stay healthy, this is a Super Bowl team. This is Super Bowl. This is 25-1. You smash that. And the number one reason is not Justin Herbert, though the MVP odds are heavily skewed to Herbert when you compare Herbert versus the Chargers, right? Remember the case for taking Jacksonville to win the Super Bowl was like, oh, the odds are much better for Jacksonville to win the Super Bowl than they are on Trevor Lawrence to win MVP. There was the second biggest disparity. The biggest disparity between MVP odds for the quarterback and the team's odds to win the Super Bowl were the Chargers. So this is the bet to smash, but the thing that I am most impressed with, and the thing I think is going to matter on Sundays, week to week, what you're going to look up and see really, really mattering is the offensive line. The offensive line has been built to perfection. When they had a strength, they did the thing last year that I just love, that makes my nipples tingle. They did the thing, Anand, where they had a player, a stud, already established at a position at left tackle in Rashawn Slater, right? And they said, you know what we're doing? Best offensive lineman available, because that's just what you do in the first round if you want to make sure you're getting value back, and they go Zion Johnson. Okay? So they get Zion Johnson. Zion Johnson plays close to 1,200 snaps as a rookie. He only allowed 5 sacks. So his pass grade, his pass blocking and run blocking grade were mid-level. But for a rookie, mid-level grades as a blocker, as a rookie, when you're still developing, you're still growing, you're still adding strength, that's great.
It's really good.
So if they get, I mean, we talk about Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard in Houston having one of the best tackle tandems. This is going to be one of the best tackle tandems as well. It's going to be right up there with the Texans in terms of tackle tandems. And then they brought in Corey Linsley, one of the better free agent signings we've seen in the last couple of years. And then they drafted a late round, huge guard, Jamari Sawyer. Yeah,
he's
Jamari
good.
Sawyer.
Big boy.
I mean, he's just a wide dude, right?
It's going to take a lot to move him.
Yeah, you could drive, like, if his ass could be like a garage door. Like, you could drive vehicles in and out of his ass. Right? It's amazing. It's what you want at guard. The fact that he went to Georgia and he was available in the 6th round, I mean, typically that's a wasted pick, but they knew something. This guy's
they saw something.
He's a dog.
Huge human being.
Yeah, he's huge, and he's got to get a guard that big from Georgia with a nasty streak is unheard of in the 6th round. But so they've just been acing the draft and free agency for years. I liked the J.C. Jackson signing. I thought if you're going to spend up in free agency, make it be on a corner you like, or make it be on a lineman you like. Don't waste money on the positions like running back, and they're not even investing in their second running back. They're like, you know what, we're good with Joshua Kelly. Fuck it, right?
Yep.
So across the board, with the only thing that they really, I think, missed in terms of team building that I think could come back and haunt them, because it can lead to missed games throughout the season, because a lot of quarterbacks miss a couple games. You look up, Dak's missed a couple games. A lot of these quarterbacks have missed a couple games with injury. Russell Wilson, right? He had the finger, remember? There's all these injuries that these quarterbacks have. So they have one of the worst backup quarterbacks in the league. So they spaced on backup quarterback. That's the one glaring hole in this roster. If that's the one glaring hole, and you have Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa rushing the passer, you get Asante Samuel Jr., this is what we talked about, with a smothering alpha corner. And then you have the perfect, like, opposite corner, a press corner like Michael Davis, who can just get up and just be disruptive, and you have one of the best safeties in the league in Derwin James. This is it. This is the team. This is the team to be in on. This is the team to have Super Bowl futures tickets for.
The Chargers are among what I believe are the 4 best rosters in the league. And I think they deserve grouped in with the Eagles, the Niners, and the Bengals as the 4 best rosters that we have.
Just up and down.
Yeah, there's no the weakness of this team last year was, and Brett Coleman did a great video about Michael Davis and how losing him impacted coverage calls and what they could do against Jacksonville, and the reason that comeback happened. Strongly urge you to go watch that at some point. But at the same time, the concern that you have for a Chargers futures ticket is the strength of the conference around them. But the thing is, no one else has a roster like this. It's Cincinnati, and that's it. If you could guarantee health, right? If we could go and guarantee health, Patrick Mahomes doing Patrick Mahomes things is the only thing preventing a Chargers-Bengals AFC Championship game.
Yeah,
Like if you go up and down the rosters, then they did the thing that we love, which is, hey, we have this issue. Middle linebacker was really bad for them last year. Horrible. Just god awful. Got abused over and over again. So what do? They go get Eric Kendricks. Is he the player that he was in his prime? No. He's still significantly better than what they had. Staley is a defensive coach, and then you hand the offense over to Kellen Moore. This is one of those, on paper, everything should work. This is a punch above their weight Super Bowl caliber team. This is they're going to drag the Chiefs to the brink probably in both games that they play, and I think they probably win one of the two. They're better than the Broncos. Everyone in the league might be better than the Raiders. This is a Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
They're firmly in that bubble of 7 or 8 teams that legitimately can make that run if everything goes their way.
It's great. It's a beautiful thing. And the win total's 9.5.
Over.
It's either minus 125 or minus 130. Yeah.
Easy over. Get easy over for me roster wise.
Eat the juice. Drink the juice. Drink the juice on the Chargers.
Easy over for me. The defense can carry them when the offense stagnates, which it won't. But again, Justin Herbert with Kellen Moore as his OC and Austin Eckler running back, they're going to do some things that you haven't historically seen the Chargers do at rates that you haven't seen them. You watched Dak the last couple years mature and evolve as a quarterback. I love Dak Prescott. We've had the conversation on here about how I think he's the perfect quarterback for Dallas because there are expectations that are heaped on you, and you are a public persona as the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott has nowhere near the physical gifts that Justin Herbert has. Nobody would accuse them of being in the same class of talent. What Kellen Moore did for Dak Prescott in terms of bringing him along, imagine the talent of a Justin Herbert. Imagine having 2 guys like Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, a litany of tight ends in that room, a strong offensive line, a running back like Eckler that is a threat out of the backfield as a pass catcher. This team has everything that you could ever want. And this was also true a year ago.
Except a backup quarterback.
Except a backup quarterback. But the problem was they can't stay healthy. They couldn't stay healthy. And their offensive coordinator was asking them to do something that they're just not equipped to do. Here's the problem with Joe Lombardi as an OC. Every play, you're basically swinging at a baseball. And if you hit a single, something happens. If you hit a double, something happens. If you hit a triple, and if you hit a home run. The problem with Joe Lombardi's play calls, where even the home runs were 8-yard runs, were 8-yard gains. That's the problem. If you have a super weapon like a Justin Herbert, you can't ask them to repeatedly hit home runs to get 8 yards. It doesn't make any sense. Nothing the Chargers did offensively made any sense last year. And they still were a playoff team. With all the injuries, with everything that happened, they probably should have gone to the divisional round to KC. They had a 27-0 lead on the road.
Can't believe it.
And then, it's the classic, the Chargers went full Chargers. Yeah.
Yeah. The most important thing with Kellen Moore is I don't know what kind of special dust he's going to sprinkle on Justin Herbert's shoulder pads to help him push the ball downfield. But we know the front office investing in Quentin Johnston. The one good thing about that is it shows that they are committed to pushing the ball downfield. And for Herbert to have more air yards, 6.5 air yards per attempt for Herbert last year. It was number 32 in the NFL. It was just bizarre. It was bizarre, but here's the thing. I think that's going to correct.
They treated it like they had Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback.
It's going to correct.
The fuck are you doing?
What matters more is their pace of play was top 5 and their team pass attempts per game were top 5. And Kellen Moore, the best part about him is he's just going to offer continuity in the play calling in that he's going to continue to call more pass plays than run plays. We know he's an up-tempo, pass-first coordinator, and that is the path to victory. That is the most efficient way to win games in the NFL, is to call more plays than your opponent and pass the ball more than your opponent and take advantage of that. All he needs to do is have Jalen Guyton back. That helps. Having Quentin Johnston helps. So you have players that can actually stretch the field. So I think it'll naturally correct this year. And Kellen Moore will continue to turn up the dial on the volume. That's what matters. And that's why everything is dialed in and aligned. Moon, stars, everything for Chargers Super Bowl.
I think that the funniest part for me is right now Herbert's being drafted as QB7 ADP on Underdog. They sound sacrilegious to say. I think that's his floor, not his ceiling. I think
they're Mike Williams could have a cliff year. Keenan Allen has suffered a number of lower body injuries and soft tissue injuries, and he's in his 30s. So the problem with Herbert is if Johnston's a bust, there's injuries to the big two. We know Josh Palmer is the quintessential just a guy wide receiver. If the weapons collapse, that's where he finishes as QB10. I mean, last year in fantasy he was QB11. He's going to definitely do better than that. His floor is like QB 8, 9, 10. In the event that the weapons crumble. So why aren't they in the market for DeAndre Hopkins? I mean, is it just a cap space thing? Are they down near the bottom in the cap space?
I think the Chargers specifically are probably a little more risk averse for someone in their 30s that has injuries after dealing with the Keenan Allens and the Mike Williams of the world. I think they're probably a little bit out on anyone that has significant injury history.
But I'm just saying that you spread around the risk, right?
Yeah.
Now you've got more guys in their 30s that could, at least one of them can be healthy at any given time. They have $12 million of cap space. So they have the money, but it's not like they're not drowning in cap space, right? They're not like the Patriots with like $17 million. Even the Jets still have $22 million in cap space somehow. It's crazy. So
I mean, you can restructure and create it if need be. Basically, anyone that wants to sign Hopkins can create the space to sign him.
Even the Bills. The Bills have $5 million, but they can restructure.
They can restructure. I think it was. They could restructure two guys and get to 18. I can't remember who they were. Kent asked me about that yesterday or 2 days ago. But
perfect. Yeah, there you go. So that's it. That's it. Come on, Bills. Pick up the phone, make it happen.
Please, God. And we do not need another Gabe Davis wide receiver 2 year. Please, Lord.
Oh, so a question I have is, God, where can you bet on a team to finish last? I wish there was a bet for that. Is that a bet at like Circa?
I think you have to find a very specific market for that. I'm sure it exists somewhere. I'd
love to bet on the Raiders to finish last.
Oh God, dude, what is this team doing? There is not a more rudderless franchise in the league than the Raiders right now. What are you doing? There's no optimism for the future. The present is a disaster. You have Jimmy Garoppolo making a lot of money to potentially fail a physical and not even be your quarterback. What are we doing here?
It doesn't make sense. Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to play 17 games. Okay, so then you're going to be to your backup quarterbacks, and they even let Stidham go.
Shout out to Purdue legend, who I think actually will be at least even if he's not competent, he's going to be fun. Their backup quarterback's Aiden O'Connell.
Well, it's technically Brian Hoyer, but Aiden O'Connell will play this year. Aiden O'Connell is a guy that you should be drafting in Superflex Dynasty leagues.
For fun.
He's underrated.
He's fun.
Yeah, he put up back-to-back 3,500 yard seasons at Purdue. He took care of the football. He had 1 year in 2021 where he had a 72% completion percentage.
Aiden O'Connell is not bad.
He's not bad. He's not great, but he's not bad.
No,
so the Aiden O'Connell Raiders in the second half, that's what I'm excited for.
Yeah, that's the only exciting thing about this team. That and to see if Davante Adams breaks 500 targets this year.
Yeah, Davante Adams is going to soak up targets. Well, no, now they have Jacoby Myers. So I'm watching Michael Mayer. I want to see Michael Mayer play. I want to see what his role is, how many targets he can command. I think that he is a sneaky value because I think he can get in there right away. Austin Hooper is such a low bar to overcome, and there's no third receiver other than Hunter Renfrow. So I think Michael Mayer can start commanding targets right away. I want to see how productive and efficient Michael Mayer is. This is a team I'm just watching just to see how things play out. I'm curious to see if Davante Adams plays all 17 games or if he actually finds a way to get traded or just storms out of the facility and decides, I'm not playing for this team in December. That's also a possibility. That there's some rift that develops where he's just like, enough already. That's one of the dangers, the risks of drafting Davante Adams in fantasy. And I'm under on the Raiders. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, how can you go under on a team that already has a low win total? It's like, well, because they were second to last in the league in defense DVOA last year. Their defense was horrific. Their offense is going to be horrific. They're in a competitive division. They're in the AFC. The line on their over-under win total is 6.5. It's crazy.
6.5. They find the 7 wins.
Yeah, it's just basic 6.5. Go to BetMGM -115. Use promo code Underworld. Okay, and there it is. It's not. It doesn't have to be hard, right? And the beauty is, they will give you bonus bets up to $1,000 if your first bet loses. Right, so how do they do that, by the way? With the bonus bets, how do they allocate? It's multiple bonus bets. So if I were to place $1,000 bet as my first bet with BetMGM and it loses, what happens?
It depends on state by state, I believe. Sometimes they give it back as one $1,000 bet that you have to place again. I don't think that's super common. Usually I think it's given out as 5 $200 bets as bonuses that you get back.
I love that. I love that. That is an incredible bonus plan for new users.
Yeah, because you don't want to incentivize people to have $1,000 units. That's just not realistic for most people. And I think that's most of the time doling them back. It was usually split up somehow. I know, various operators do various things and it changes all the time. You'll hear the language change.
So I either win a big bet, like if I make a baseball bet, for example, either win a big bet, and then if I don't win the big bet, I've got a bunch of smaller bets in the bank I can make at any given time during the football season or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. And these new offer bonus.
They're good, man.
Promotions are really good.
They're good across the board.
We like BetMGM. They make it easy. They just have the promo code Underworld. You don't need some special link. You don't need to go through as many hoops. So I like the BetMGM app experience. I like how easy the sign-up process is, and I just like the people there. They've treated us well, and so that would be, when we're talking about, hey, where am I going to go to bet under 6.5 on the Raiders at -115? I say BetMGM. Promo code is Underworld. Now, let's talk about the team we really want to talk about here.
Yeah, sorry, Raiders.
Right. So I don't want to talk about the Raiders. It's just an easy. Let me get this straight. Defense stinks. Offense is even worse. They can't win 7 games. What are we doing? There's no other bets to talk about. We're gonna watch it burn. Right, with the Raiders, you're just watching the team burn.
I want the alternate timeline. I want the alternate timeline Raiders where they drafted Anthony Richardson. That's all I want. That's what we want. That would have been fun. It would be interesting.
Yeah.
Shows me some kind of direction. There's a plan. And instead, Now, God, poor Drake May is probably going to be suffering there. Poor guy. I feel so bad for him.
But this is a very balanced division in terms of, I think, where we're going with how to bet it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're staying away from Denver largely. We are just fading the Raiders into oblivion. You know, they talk about like hedge funds. What they'll do is they'll just fade and short companies that they know are going bankrupt, and then once in a while they get caught in a short squeeze, like with GameStop most famously.
Mm-hmm.
But these hedge funds make a lot of money finding bad companies and just shorting them to zero.
Yeah.
Right. So that's really what we're doing with the Raiders. We're like, sorry, books, you can't go low enough with your lines. We're shorting this thing to zero. They could win one game. So, and they're gonna finally figure out their quarterback situation in next year's draft. Finally.
And
so I think
then,
that would be the argument to not
direction.
taking quarterback this year, is that, hey, we're going to figure it out next year. We're in a full rebuild. I don't know if that message ever got to Josh McDaniels though. So we're very bullish on the Chargers. We're all in on the Chargers. We're out on the Raiders, fading them into oblivion. We're staying away from these conundrum teams like Denver. What do we do with Kansas City?
You go over until they give you a reason not to. There's not a number high enough for me. You could give me 13 and I'd still go over. This team is proven over time that despite what anybody wants to think about them, whoever it is, they were winning 11 games with Alex Smith at quarterback. And now they have the super robot that is Patrick Mahomes, who on one leg won a Super Bowl. We can sit here until the end of time and discuss what we want out of their wide receiver room that they don't have. Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce. As long as Pat and Travis are out there, and as long as Spags is allowed to do diabolical shit that he does as a defensive coordinator, this team's gonna win a lot of games. Like they're the odds market leader to win the Super Bowl again, as they should be. Mahomes is either the favorite or co-favorite, depending on where you look, with Burrow to win MVP, as he always is. The most fun part about Kansas City is not betting their win total over and cashing that basically every year. The most fun part about Kansas City is giving them new pieces every year at receiver and just watching how they make it work, because it's fun. Last year, we came on at this time and we're like, hey, we don't believe in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We think he sucks. There's a 7th-round rookie that we like a lot. Household name now, was not a household name then, named Isiah Pacheco. Every year they find somebody. Every year. Jerick McKinnon was left for dead. They brought him back. Isiah Pacheco was a 7th-round running back out of Rutgers. They got something out of him. Every year, this team finds somebody that's cast aside elsewhere that no one cares about in the draft, and all they do is turn them into productive players. Juju Smith-Schuster last year. Super Bowl champion. How? I don't fucking know. I don't know. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, your classic field stretcher. It doesn't matter because they have Kelce, because they have because they have Pat, and because they have Andy. Every single year, this team takes random edge rushers, random linebackers, corners you've never heard of, and every single year they go over their win total. It's witchcraft. I don't understand it. I don't claim to understand it. This is not logic-based. This is not about my feelings. This isn't a strong lean. It's not an urge. This is just a decade of Andy Reid in Kansas City. You know exactly what you're going to get from him. And then you added this fucking mutant alien at quarterback who on one leg is somehow the best, pocket passer in the league. And then when you give him, his legs back, he's also capable of running around like a madman and chucking 80-yard bombs to whoever gets open. Maybe it'll be Rashee Rice this year. Maybe it'll be Sky Moore. Maybe it'll be Kadarius Toney.
Rashee Rice over Marvin Mims was such a fail. Oh,
maybe, you know what? They may take They may take Ahan as wide receiver 5 and give him 300 yards this year. Like, nothing about this makes sense other than the fact that they just keep doing it. It's just,
that was a bad pick, but I loved their first round pick so much. Right? Is there a nickname for this guy? Because I have a hard time with the pronunciation. I mean, Northwestern's own Felix and Adike Uzoma.
Yep. He is the
FAU, baby. Talk about replacing. That's how you upgrade. You see.
Yeah.
See. So Denver downgrades by bringing in Frank Clark. Kansas City upgrades by getting rid of Frank Clark and bringing in Uzoma, who is a machine.
He is. You want to talk about an athletic profile? Who, buddy?
Yeah. So they're making smart moves. Like I mean, the way they are rebuilding on the fly is admirable. I just don't believe in witchcraft. So what I don't typically like to bet the Chiefs just because so much can go wrong in the league with injuries and with, like we talked about, bad luck, that you just, there's not a lot of room for error with Chiefs lines. And so therefore I am just generally out on going over or under the Chiefs. It's not like I'm going to go under. I'm not saying go under, but 11.5 in a division with the Chargers and Denver could be improved if their defense can stabilize at least.
They've got to play Cincinnati, Jacksonville, Buffalo.
And their schedule is so, like you said, they play Buffalo, they play Cincinnati. It's not good. Like their schedule is brutal.
You are bold, man, if you go under 11.5 on KC. If you want to do that, I would just advise staying away. Look at
their road games. Their road games at Jacksonville, brutal. At the Jets, week 4, brutal. Oof. Right? And then they've got their games where they're crossing. Oh, they're crossing against the Eagles. Right? I mean, in the NFC, that this one random NFC game, they're crossing against the Eagles in the NFC East, but then they also have to play the NFC North, which is good, right? No Aaron Rodgers, but then they have to face Aaron Rodgers when they face the Jets. So they've got some layups on the schedule, right? A couple. They've got Chicago at home. That's a layup. So they have a couple layups. Of course, the Raiders games are layups. But like some of these games where they could lose, the problem is they're road games, right? It's at Green Bay. Okay. Again, they're probably going to win that game. It's at Minnesota. It's at the Jets. It's at the Jaguars. Normally, I would say they're going to win these games, but then you go on the road for all these games, it makes it trickier. Oh, man.
I want people, because we have every year, there are a couple results that we just erase from memory. The Jets beating the Rams the year before they won the Super Bowl. Or I might have even been no, it was the year before, I'm pretty sure. Jets beating the Rams in December as part of the reason they didn't get Trevor Lawrence, by the way. And last year, the Colts beat the Chiefs. That's a game that happened.
I know. It's tough. It's the NFL, man. It's why betting it's so hard. It's why the books love the NFL. The guy, I do have a bet, though. I have a bet for the Chiefs.
Let's hear it.
Isiah Pacheco rushing prop over week 1.
Ooh, what's the number?
Well, we don't know yet. It hasn't come out yet. But last year, historically, 53.5 was his rushing yards prop in the Super Bowl. And I think that with McKinnon back on the team and Edwards-Helaire there, I can't see it being more than, say, 55.5. And I'm smashing that. They're at home against the Lions. Lions were bottom 5 in defense DVOA last year. To me, it's an easy win. It's an easy smash. I love Pacheco this year in general. I think McKinnon's another year older. Edwards-Hilaire's washed.
He was washed when he was.
Pacheco is a beast. Like Pacheco, it has such a nasty factor. He's out here. He's got the requisite size, 210 pounds, runs a sub 4.4, so he's explosive. He runs over people, through people, around people.
I remember someone in my comments during the Super Bowl told me that he runs like he's angry at the grass. I think that's the best description that I've ever heard of the way that he runs.
Isiah Pacheco runs like he's angry at the grass. Quote that. We'll put that up. We'll put that up on Twitter. It's a great quote from Anand.
That was someone in my comments.
I love Pacheco in fantasy. He's one of the reasons why I love zero RB. I'm back on zero RB. Like I said, I'm in a Scott Fish Bowl through 8 rounds, 9 rounds. I have no running backs. Pacheco's one of those guys I want. He's right there with Roschon Johnson, Antonio Gibson, Kenneth Gainwell. There's so many running backs I love. But the fact you can get a starting running back on the Chiefs with all that positive game script and the breakaway run potential is incredible. So I love Pacheco, especially though when you're in the sportsbook app and when the props come out for week 1, you should go straight to that Pacheco rush yards prop and pound it against the Lions at home. Now, because it was like, but it's going to be a better game than expected, right? Well, the Chiefs do get the Lions without Jameson Williams, so the Lions aren't going to be at full strength just in week 1 without Jameson Williams, and it's going to be their new middle linebacker's first game as a rookie, right? Campbell. Of course, right? So
Detroit and an Iowa linebacker. That's a marriage.
Yeah, it's Pacheco is happening. He's totally happening, and he's especially happening. Everyone that got Pacheco in round 9 and 10 in their fantasy draft is going to be so happy after week 1.
One of the best things I think about the crew of people that we've assembled at Player Profiler, a lot of smart people that do incredible work. Billy, being the high stakes player that he is telling you the trends before they're trends. Like we were talking pre-show about Amari Cooper and how, in high stakes leagues, he's going much earlier than he is in best ball or in, these regular drafts that we do. They're telling you what's going to happen before it happens in terms of ADP movement. And I think at some point, Pacheco's he's a value right now, but at some point in underdog, people are going to catch up. And I don't think he's going to be a value at the end of August. But if you're drafting right now to get him where you can get him, like in SFB, I got him at 8-10. I don't think you're going to be able to do that a month from now. People are going to look at the RB options in that same spot and eventually realize we only got to see him really like what he can do for 5-6 games at the end of the year. And then he tore through the playoffs. They leaned on him.
I know. The same case that I make for Kenneth Gainwell is the same case I make for Isiah Pacheco. It's like one of the best teams in the league, and they leaned on him in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Again, at the FFPC, he's going at the 6-7 turn, and that's still great value. And by the way, at the FFPC, use promo code Underworld. You get $25 off your first team. $25 off your first team with promo code Underworld at the FFPC. That's our favorite place to play for low, medium, high stakes. And Pacheco, even in high stakes, still a value. I talked on the GOAT District podcast to Dan Williamson. Kenneth Gainwell, high stakes, still a value.
Yeah, there are guys that at some point drafting just becomes about range of outcomes. Once you get out of round 3, round 4, round 5, the sure things are all gone. You're betting on range of outcomes here. And Pacheco's range of outcomes includes, seasons that we've seen from Chiefs running backs before where, Damian Williams was giving you RB1 weeks consistently once upon a time. That role that he plays has significant value, even if you're not as talented as he is. And he's clearly more talented than some of these other guys that they've had play that role. Andy Reid opting to run the ball is rare as is, but the guy that they have running the ball in high leverage moments was Isiah Pacheco. It wasn't first round draft pick Edwards-Helaire. It wasn't McKinnon that's been there and done that for them before. They leaned heavily on a 7th round rookie. And if they do that in the highest leverage moments of their season, what makes you think they're not going to do that week 1 against Detroit?
And be sure to check out playerprofiler.com. We have all the tools for you to dominate every type of fantasy league. We have a draft kit, Dynasty Deluxe, data analysis, DFS Dominator, and don't forget the player rankings to rule them all.